security lock. They use these on banks, not recycling centers. Maybe if I can find where it gets its power from. Looks like I could override the circuit. Need my electric webs.
Make it very clear as we go into this that that's not where I'm approaching this from. This is very much me saying, here's my order of these movies. I'm not trying to say that this should be your order of these movies. And really what this is more than anything is an avenue to open up conversation. I will promise you that there's going to be some placements here that you disagree with, and that is totally fine. This is just having a little fun and talking about my personal preferences for these films. So what movies are eligible? Well, obviously, all 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, all 3 MCU Spider-Man films, both of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then just for a little bit of fun, I also threw in Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, because they do technically belong to a Spider-Verse. So we have 11 movies total. We're going to be going from 11 to 1, and without any further ado, let's start with the number 11 movie on my list, the bottom-ranked movie, and that is Spider-Man 3. Rewatching Spider-Man 3, I actually think the first 50 minutes or so of the movie are pretty solid. You have some great stuff between Peter and Aunt May.
A man has to be understanding and put his wife before himself. Can you do that, Peter?
Yeah, I think I can.
And then you also have the stuff with Sandman. I think that his origin is pretty cool. The scene where he's in the collider and becomes sand, even though the graphics may not quite hold up, they're not atrocious. And I like that bank fight scene where they're in the armored car and it's filling with sand and Peter's getting punched with sand. I think that's one of the better fight scenes in the Raimi Spider-Man films. But then we get to the black suit Spider-Man stuff, the part with the symbiote. First we get Bully Peter or Bully Maguire or whatever you want to call it.
Find us some shade. Thanks, how nice.
I hear the argument that the movie is portraying what Peter Parker's idea of his dark personality would be. I just don't agree with it. And then we get to the parts with Venom and Eddie Brock. I like Topher Grace. I think he's been great in other movies, but it was not a good casting here.
Hey, Parker. My God, Eddie. Ooh, my spider sense is tingling. If you know what I'm talking about.
And so none of the Venom stuff really works for me, and none of the Harry and MJ stuff works for me either. First of all, you have this cliched story point of a character getting amnesia.
Right now, he can't remember the accident or anything that happened to him recently.
Is it permanent?
And then we have this whole storyline where Harry and MJ kind of have this romance. The scene where they're cooking and dancing to the twist, which was like ancient even then. I get like secondhand embarrassment, honestly, for James Franco and Kirsten Dunst for having to do that scene, because it just seems so unrealistic and dated, even by mid-2000 standards. Although I do have to give credit to the coffee shop scene between Harry and Peter, because that pie eating did make a really good gif.
How's the pie?
So good.
We also have the retcon with Sandman actually being Uncle Ben's killer. It all overwhelms the good stuff about this movie. I think that Spider-Man 3 is a really, really messy movie. But still, I think that it's a testament to the fact that you have a pretty solid franchise, that even my least favorite movie still has some stuff that I enjoy in it.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Coming in at number 10 is another Spider-Man sequel, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Much like Spider-Man 3, I also think that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has some really strong stuff in it, in this case being all of the stuff with Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy.
You're wrong about us being on different paths. We're not on different
Lots of
paths.
high-tech equipment. Maybe later I can recycle this stuff into some weapons.
Garfield and
This wasn't
Stone's
a game
natural
war.
chemistry, and
The
then
demons
Andrew
were stealing from
Garfield's
this to go after Mayor
heartbreaking
Osborn.
performance when Gwen dies at the hands of Dane
No,
DeHaan's Green
but you were
Goblin.
right. Lee's using this place as a front for the demons. Bomb-making, gun-running.
Gwen!
And it looks like they're planning another attack. This time on Norman Osborn's
That's
campaign
really what
offices.
puts this movie above Spider-Man 3 for me
I
in
found
these
an address
rankings.
here.
And again, it's
I
not
think it's
that
their
I
staging
hate
area.
this movie. I just think that there's a lot more
hurry,
in this
I might
movie
be able
that
to stop
doesn't
them.
work than does work. I don't think that Electro works at all.
It's my birthday. Now it's time for me to light my candle.
I don't think that Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin really works at all, other than the whole
Martin Lee
magic
and the
blood
demons
thing,
are planning another
fine.
attack. This time on Norman Osborn's campaign offices.
which was a big thing as we were going into the mid-2010s.
Trust me on
The
this
only
one.
thing he really
I'm
does
sending you the
is
address of the
be
recycling
responsible
center.
for
You'll
Gwen
find all the
Stacy's
evidence there.
death.
Harry proved out!
Harry is dead.
Paul Giamatti as the Rhino definitely does not work. And then we have the movie wanting to rush ahead and assemble the Sinister Six and set up all of these spin-offs, but they took their eye off what this was supposed to be, which was continuing to build the character of Spider-Man. I think that Andrew Garfield really had some great Spider-Man movies in him.
This is a wind turbine. You make this? No way. This is amazing. As good as new, right?
It's just that this one was so messy and did not connect with audiences and didn't make enough money at the box office for them to justify making another one. But as I said with Jamie Foxx, there was redemption coming down the line in a movie that we're going to see later on in this countdown. At number 9 on my list is another sequel, Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I like the Venom movies more than most people. That has been very much established. I don't think that they're great films, but I have enjoyed both of those films.
I cannot live on chicken and chocolate alone. I need brains.
Chickens have brains.
I most passionately disagree.
When we're looking at the second Venom film, I think it number one does what it should have done, which is to double down on the Eddie-Venom relationship. That's what made the first Venom film so special for me, in the sense that it was completely unlike anything else I'd ever seen.
Oh, shit! Where you going? This is much worse than I thought.
And then you have Woody Harrelson coming in as Cletus Cassidy. Harrelson understood the assignment. He knew what kind of movie this was.
Gifts first. Actually, traditionally. Shut your mouth. Father.
I wish that they could have gone more extreme with Carnage, because it is a very extreme character. It was born out of the 90s. That's what you did. You made extreme characters. But I don't think that it's a total letdown after the first movie, and there are parts that I really did enjoy. More than anything, I think what I like about these Venom films is that they are super weird.
Your costume is amazing!
Thank you, one person.
And just completely unapologetic about it, and that's refreshing. And that's why I have them above for weird.
Your costume is amazing!
Thank you, one person.
And just completely unapologetic about it, and that's refreshing. And that's why I have them above my bottom 2 Spider-Man films. I might have even given this one a little bit more of a boost before I saw No Way Home, because of the end credits sequence. Right now it seems like kind of a waste, or maybe sort of a bait and switch, so that's why it's down where it is right now. That's the other thing about these rankings. They can always evolve over time. At number 8 on my list is the first Venom movie, and let's be really clear, this movie doesn't work without Tom Hardy.
You gonna eat anybody else?
Most likely.
Oh, God.
He is as essential to the execution of Venom as Hugh Jackman was to Wolverine, as Robert Downey Jr. was to Iron Man, and that's because Tom Hardy likes to do crazy stuff. And I think that Ruben Fleischer was right to trust the actor that he had for the role and just let Tom Hardy go crazy, because in what other comic book movie are you going to laugh at your character getting into a live lobster tank? This could have gone disastrously bad, and some people would argue that it did. But it certainly didn't for me, and it all comes down to what Tom Hardy does as Eddie Brock / Venom.
You will be this armless, legless, faceless thing, won't you? Rolling down the street like a turd in the wind.
So Venom is there at number 8, and from here on up in the list, we're going from mixed to positive. So everything from here on up, I don't really have so many mixed feelings about. It's just kind of a different degrees of good. At number 7 is a movie that actually dropped a spot or two after I rewatched it recently, and that is Spider-Man Far From Home, which I had actually only seen when it came out theatrically back in 2019.
I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, sir.
Bitch, please, you've been to space.
What I remember the most from the film were the Mysterio illusion sequences, and I think that really buoyed my opinion of the film quite a bit, because I think that's some of the best Spider-Man stuff that's ever in any movie. I love the design on that. It really nails the aesthetic of that character and why he's so menacing to Spider-Man, and it just looks great. I also think that the action scene at the end of the movie at the Tower Bridge is really good. The game-changing reveal at the end with the return of J. Jonah Jameson.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
And I think it was all of that that kind of in my brain had me saying, oh, this is maybe my favorite Tom Holland Spider-Man film previous to No Way Home coming out. But when I rewatched it, I think I noticed a lot more of the contrivances in the plot. There's just so many conveniences and coincidences, down to Talos posing as Nick Fury. Does that really work in retrospect when you're watching the movie back? There are definitely some high highs with this movie, but there's a lot of stuff that the rewatch really kind of tempered for me. I think if I'd made this list before I rewatched it, it would be 1 or 2 slots higher, but as it is right now, it's coming in as my lowest ranked Tom Holland Spider-Man. Next up is another film in the Tom Holland series, and that is his first solo team movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie is a lot of fun, and it doesn't hurt that you have a human charisma machine in Robert Downey Jr. that's also joining in.
Don't do anything I would do, and definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in there, and that's where you operate.
But I think that the real power of this movie is the third act, at least the part where he's stripped of his Spider-Man suit.
This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
The scene where he's basically willing himself to get up and keep fighting is a really great early superhero scene where he's understanding that the power has to come from inside of himself.
Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man.
Consolidated shipping.
Oh, come on, Spider-Man!
The deciding factor on a lot of these movies,
guys,
especially as we climb higher up,
try to do
is
this
the
quietly,
villain. And
but also
I don't
with
think that the
style.
Vulture necessarily as a whole is one of the strongest Spider-Man villains, but Michael Keaton is great. And his best scene in the movie is actually when he's not in the bird costume, but when he is threatening Peter Parker.
I'll kill you.
I can use that stuff I found at the recycling center.
I'll kill you dead. That's what I'll do to protect my family, Pete.
That is such a great scene, and it has such menace, and it shows why you cast somebody like Michael Keaton for a part like that. Michael
Nice.
Keaton does elevate
Love using
this
bad
movie,
guys' own
no
weapons
doubt
against them.
about it. I still really enjoy this movie a lot. It's just outside my top 5, but as I said, as we get closer to the top, it's really just degrees of good, and I always enjoy rewatching Spider-Man Homecoming.
And that, my friends, is what karmic justice looks like.
Climbing into my top 5 is another movie that I rewatched recently, and I'm glad I did because it actually moved up my rankings 1 or 2 spots instead of falling down like Spider-Man Far From Home, and that is Andrew Garfield's first outing as the web-slinger, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Got a knife? Is that a real knife? Yes, it's a real knife. My weakness, it's small knives.
I initially had this movie behind both Tom Holland's first 2 Spider-Man films, and I think it's the Lizard factor. The Lizard was kind of weighing this movie down because I don't think that he's a particularly memorable villain. The Kurt Connors story is definitely a tragic one, but I think by the time we get to the third act, he's just sort of a generic monster. And that's really what stuck in my head was that, like, well, I think the third act is kind of forgettable, and it weighed everything down. But rewatching it, what got lost in that shuffle for me, and what I think all of this talk about No Way Home has revived in a lot of people, is just how good Andrew Garfield is in this role.
What's going on, guys?
I think the fact that neither of these films did incredible business sort of was seen as a judgment on Andrew Garfield's performance at the time, and it really hasn't been until we get a little further away and we get some distance from it that a lot of people, including myself, have been able to see just how vulnerable and yet also funny he is.
You would have me believe that he, in his spare time, is running around dressed up like a giant dinosaur.
Not dressing up and not a dinosaur. He has transformed himself into a giant lizard.
There's also some really cool visuals. This was a movie that was born out of the 3D era. I think one of the great byproducts of that was the fact that we got some of these first-person web-swinging shots through the streets of New York City. We don't quite see that kind of thing in any other Spider-Man movie. We also have the part in the third act where the crane operators all turn their cranes over the avenue. I think that that is my favorite way of showing how the city of New York rallies around Spider-Man. I think that's a very important part of his mythology, and I like how they illustrated that in this movie. Overall, despite a weaker villain, I think that this is a really enjoyable Spider-Man movie, and until recently was the movie that I also think did the best at showing both the pressure and the fun of being Spider-Man.
That's what's at stake here. Not choice.
At number 4 is another, I guess what you would call origin story. It's the movie that started it all, Sam Raimi's 2002 Spider-Man.
With great power comes great responsibility.
One thing I will say is that this movie definitely feels its age. It's nearly 20 years old, and there are things from the wardrobe to the style, etc., that are starting to make it feel a little bit dated, but it's also a great telling of the Spider-Man story, which, as evidenced by the fact that the character's been around for nearly 60 years, is a timeless thing. I think this movie and The Amazing Spider-Man both nailed the basics of the character and the mythology behind him, but I'm putting Spider-Man here at number 4 for a couple of reasons. Number 1, I think that the origin story in this film is cleaner. With Amazing Spider-Man, there was, again, sort of a trend to make everything interconnected, and so it was all part of this big conspiracy with Peter's dad and Oscorp, and he's doing all of this investigation. It got a little bit messy, and I think got a little bit in the way of his origin. And also, the tiebreaker kind of goes to the villain. And if you're going to make me choose between the Lizard and Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, I'm picking the Green Goblin every single time.
But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying.
I think the appreciation for Willem Dafoe has really, really grown over the years. Yes, the outfit is silly. It's one of the things that dates the movie the most. But the performance has aged like a fine wine.
There's only one who can stop us. Imagine if he joined us.
As evidenced by the fact that nearly every single line that Willem Dafoe has now been canonized as a meme.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Tobey Maguire brings a softness and a vulnerability to Peter Parker that's different from what we got with Andrew Garfield, and I think is unique to his version. We also have Rosemary Harris as Aunt May, straight out of the comics. I think that she is a great classical interpretation of the character. Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben, the same. I think that he's perfect for the tone that they're going for in this movie. And let's give it up for as J. Jonah Jameson. One of the best castings in any superhero movie ever.
Spider-Man, hero or menace? Exclusive Daily Bugle photos.
Menace? He was protecting that armor.
Come on, Atticus. You take the pictures, I'll make up the headlines, okay? All right? That okay with you?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I think a lot of 2002 Spider-Man really holds up, and its exclusion from the top 3 isn't really a judgment on its quality. I think it's that from this tier up, we're really, really, really talking about almost perfect Spider-Man films.
You do too much. College, a job, all this time with me. You're not Superman, you know.
At number 3 is the first Spider-Man sequel, Spider-Man 2, which up until a few years ago was far and away my favorite Spider-Man movie ever made.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the things we want the most.
At its heart, I think this is a movie about conflict and the dangers and the cost of going after your desires, the sacrifices that are sometimes asked of you or the sacrifices that are sometimes tragically taken from you. With our hero, we have Spider-Man, who sees the destruction of his life at the hands of his alter ego and makes the choice to walk away from the responsibility that
Good thing I stopped this when I did.
with those consequences.
Could blow half of Manhattan with the stockpile.
Some poor soul got trapped on the 4th floor. Never made it out.
In the villain, we have Dr. Otto Octavius, who's played by Alfred Molina. It was so great to see him in this film and to see him return in Spider-Man No Way Home. He also sacrifices things, although not by choice. He takes on the responsibility of trying to make the world a better place.
Safe, renewable energy, and cheap electricity for everyone.
and is repaid in a cruel twist of fate by being turned into a monster. Both of these characters are in conflict with themselves, which I think makes this movie really interesting at every turn. It props up this entire movie, and it makes the scenes actually flow from one to the other, and not feel like they're just fillers between big effects and fights. As silly as Tobey Maguire's face is when he is stopping the train,
What else can I
also
find around
love,
here?
and I talked about the role of the city of New York, when he is unmasked, and the city literally bears Spider-Man and puts him up on their shoulders. You see that respect, and you see that reverence for him.
He's just a kid. No older than my son.
This is a complete Spider-Man story. It gives us full arcs for Spider-Man and Doc Ock. It advances the Spider-Man MJ relationship. It deepens the relationship between Peter Parker and Aunt May. It also sets up what could have been an interesting storyline for Harry that unfortunately turned into omelets, chubby checker, and pie. Even given that, I like how he and Doc Ock work together in this film, and I can't really blame the sins of Spider-Man 3 on Spider-Man 2. Everybody has their favorite Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. Mine is this one.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
At number 2 is a film that you may have heard of. It's called Spider-Man No Way Home, and it just came out. And a lot of people may say that this is recency bias, but I really don't think so. I struggled with where to put it. I tried to look at different positioning and justify, could I put it in 3, could I put it in 4? It's really the spot that felt right, because I love
As if one deadly glowing whip wasn't enough.
The strengths we've talked about in all of the other Spider-Man films are also on display here. I think that every one of the Spider-Man actors gives maybe their best performance in the role all in this movie. And No Way Home feels like the natural culmination of a 7-movie-long Spider-Man marathon with payoffs to setups that I don't think that the actors and directors at the time even knew that they were doing. I think that's one of the brilliant things that this movie does.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it was definitely not this.
Which now on film is almost 20 years old, and it collects these things.
Hey, MJ, I think I stopped the demon's attack on Oswald campaign off.
It improves some things, it gives us closure on other things.
No, but I found something we should look into. This place called Pale Horse Ride.
Looking back at all of the Sony Spider-Man, at least in live action, and say, let's do justice and service to every single one of these characters, and I think that it does. This is a love letter to Spider-Man fans, to Spider-Man villains, to Spider-Man heroes, to everything Spider-Man. And when we look at the Spider-Man franchise, this is the one that I can't wait to return to, and that I think I'm probably going to watch more than any of these other films, except for one. And it is my number one choice. It's the only animated film that is in the Spider-Man franchise, and it's the first one to deal with the concept of the multiverse, and that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
This could literally not be a movie. And get real.
First and foremost, this movie is just so much fun. And it's because they had so many new avenues to go down.
There's going to be a lot of mustache. You're not talking hardcore. You biscuit box. You put them all up at once.
Right, just center on Miles Morales, which has been a long-awaited move for so many people. The movie was able to open up so many new avenues. Having a Spider-Man that has a different outlook on life, that has a different background.
No, my head! Oh!
Everything with Miles Morales is really bolstered by the sacrifice, the shocking sacrifice of Spider-Man Peter Parker at the very beginning of the movie. And then we get Jake Johnson coming in as Peter B. Parker. Again, this could have been something that fell flat on its face, because he's out of shape and he's largely comic
No. This
but
one's mine.
worse.
All right.
You gotta understand.
I'm executing this.
Hey! Needless to say,
Oh, for crying out loud.
We also get immensely entertaining versions of other characters that are inside the Spider-Verse, including Haley Steinfeld's Spider-Gwen.
I'm Miles.
I'm Gwanda.
Wait, your name is Gwanda?
Yes.
Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir, and of course John Mulaney's Spider-Ham.
What a pig.
I'm right here.
Listen, if you told me before this movie came out that my favorite
That's not how we
Spider-Man
do
movie
things.
ever made would be the one that has Spider-Ham in it, I would have told you that you were absolutely nuts. But that's just how this movie
Before we do
works.
this,
It wins
who the hell
people
are you
over
guys?
based on sheer charm and being just really good.
Copy code SM1. I have a visual. Hold for Silverberg.
We're probably the only ones who do understand.
Into the Spider-Verse is also just a beautiful movie. The animation style is fresh and vibrant and new that I'd seen, and yet it had that familiar feel of a comic book. In particular, Miles' first suit up in his Spider-Man costume, where he's floating basically above the Manhattan skyline to What's Up Danger, I think is one of the most striking cinematic images of the early 21st century. And you may think that that's an overstatement. I don't think that it is. It is a shockingly beautiful image, and one that has stayed with me since I saw the movie the first time, and I've seen it many times afterward. It's just great filmmaking. It was a real pleasure to watch the word of mouth spread on this box office. I tried to be one of the critics that was out there just as soon as I could, telling people, go see this movie. I know it seems weird. I know it seems confusing that we've got a Venom and now an animated Spider-Man and a live-action Spider-Man, but trust me. And then even to watch it go from an underdog movie for the Academy Awards to win the Best Animated Film Oscar, it was so richly deserved. And one of the few times that I have organically seen a movie that nobody had pegged as the best animated film of the year, that nobody predicted would be the best Spider-Man movie ever made. I'm still floored by this movie every time that I see it. There are a lot of really good Spider-Man movies. This one, in my opinion, is the best. It's the one that I enjoy watching the most. It has everything that you could possibly want, not just in a Spider-Man movie, but in a movie, and that's why it is at the top. So those are my Spider-Man rankings. Let's go over them one more.
Norman Osborn and Aunt May in the back kitchen, and he's just not in a good place. He's very kind of a moment that it's them all. I'm like, no, he doesn't. And in this, they didn't have that line because he didn't. So good job.
I felt like something was weird about the relationship that they had there. It didn't seem like
long and strange.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like they were as friendly as they have been. And his like, don't let me know about it.
You become roommates for so long, you're just kind of like, this
ships,
guy.
Two ships.
There we are. Oh.
I just watched these movies on a rewatch.
Bro!
I also did spoiler review. Peace out. I already did it for 45 minutes. Sit down.
See you guys.
But yeah, so then the prison scene happens with all this stuff, and then we said, okay, so everybody who's coming through now, great reveal of it, because now we know, okay, that's what the story is. Yeah. That's it. So they're going to send these people back, and then you start thinking,
solid 8 out of 10.
What does that mean then? Does that mean when they bring, you know at that point because Toby, plus the fact you just knew at this point how they were going to bring them in, not anymore. At no point in the movie, because there were some people that were really at no point in the movie did I think they were not going to show up, right?
After we explained what the spell became,
you knew it.
It had to happen.
What I was curious about was, as far as timelines go,
would it be a cameo? Head of Sable International.
What
private security
version of them was coming in? Because if Doc Ock clearly is coming in right as that machine.
Next time you get in my way,
he's like, I had him,
I will not
and I was ready, and I had the machine, and then I'm here. And the same thing with Electro. Right before the moments that they died, that's when they got there. So then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Does that mean that we're getting a 2012 version of Andrew? Are we getting? But then it realized that it's very Spider-Verse-y in how it was, because that's explained later on, which we'll get to.
Well, I think the other thing about it too, you can look at it in that regard, is that if we're in 2021 for this film,
it's okay.
That was Toby in 2021. That was Andrew in 2021.
Well, that took a dark turn.
2021. It's 2025 or something.
Yeah, 2023.
You're kicking your ass there.
You really are. I don't know what's going on.
I'm working on it.
It's Marvel Geek variant.
Apparently, what the hell? You must have really loved this film.
I did.
But But I guess that was the whole thing for all of them, since that's where they did. Because the Sandman, that wasn't Sandman.
So I dredged up some records on Martin Lee's other business
because remember, he died. He just went up to. If I don't forget,
line up with a map I found at that shipping
That was
business.
the only thing.
I'll check him out.
That out of all those questions we just had, he said they came here before their moment of death. He's the only one that didn't come their moment of death. They didn't really acknowledge that.
But I think that's the whole thing, though. It's because in 2023 in his universe, he's with his daughter. Remember, the only thing he says is, I need to get back to my daughter right now.
What he's got planned next.
Which is also weird, though.
Say hi to me for me.
So it just depends on where, at what point.
No, he's only got one target on his mind. Norman
Osborn. Based
Osborn.
off of where the Spider-Man got pulled,
No, but that's what I'm saying.
No, but
though.
I think that's a different
They're not
timeline.
connected.
It's not
they're
a
not,
time
no,
pull.
because remember, because Alfred Molina got pulled
because he was dead. I get that.
But he got pulled in 2004, whereas Goblin got pulled in 2002. Whereas Toby looks like he got pulled, 20 years later because he looked
Yes,
freaky as fuck.
but that's my point. I think
your
that's the Sandman that got pulled in 2023. That's what I'm saying. Is that based off the fact that
that wasn't explained. It wasn't.
No, I agree with you. I think if they had explained it also with Toby and Andrew, that would have been enough to explain it for Sandman. But they never explain it. We just know it based off of their.
Well, they talk about
the things that know it though.
They talk about the things that happen to them after, and it looks like a long span of time.
Right. That's what I mean by we know it because they give us examples of what they've been dealing with.
It's another costly job.
Because he said, "I want to get back to my daughter," but he also wanted to get back to his daughter in the three.
Right. And also, he might not age because he's Sandman. That was my thought.
Who knows? Either way,
We haven't gotten there yet. We're going to talk about one of the most visually stunning scenes in perhaps the entire MCU. Spider-Man fighting Doctor Strange was the most
Fingers to the cross.
I've ever seen in my life.
that comes after all the other reveals here. So when we get to this whole thing, the setup of it, and it's like, okay, so basically what you need to do now is use this thing, find some people, you find some people, put them in the prison, and we're going to send them back. So, and we forgot about the Scooby-Doo moment, right? When they're all talking. So that, to me, even though I only give a great bit, it played better with the curse than it did on.
It also played better in context with Zendaya getting to actually do her work.
It did.
Because it worked off
backing
Zendaya,
up
it did not work
for
off the void of the trailer. That joke does not land if one person's like...
So he goes and they do, and they get, and then that's why again the Hardy. I like that he does it on his own. They're watching from the side. They're there together. They're not trying to take him on the adventure with them, but they can do it from the side. Love that. So he goes in there and eventually start to figure out we're gonna get Sandman in the way. That Sandman scene. So the Sandman scene I love because it does take the essence of what Thomas Hayden Church brought to that character and why we always said we wish he would have just been the guy in general because he had the most depth in Spider-Man 3 at all. And he's trying to help Peter. He's trying to help him out. And then the fact that he got there in general, that he was there to help out. Electro, in the beginning, I had an issue with because to me, this is what it felt like, and I don't know if it's true or not, just how it felt. He comes in, he's blue, and then he turns into the Electro, more of the traditional look that he's got, but he's not Max anymore, he's Jamie Foxx. And he's cracking jokes like Jamie Foxx, he's just, and I get it, you transferred over here now, and now you're cooler, you feel this power, you like it, but my problem was this, and I said this to you in the stream, it felt to me like Jamie Foxx was like, I'll come back, but I don't want to play the character like that anymore. I want to play him a little bit more.
I almost guarantee that.
I went back and because I just wanted to see, knowing that it was death moments, I just went back and looked very quickly at the final fight scenes for people. So I don't know if you remember, by the time that he actually meets the Harry in Amazing, he has become Jamie Foxx. That the transition happened. So early on, he's super nerdy. He's like,
it did feel in that movie that I was like, this happened quickly. So I do remember there being like a very Jamie Foxx conclusion.
So by the time that final battle happened, he had become Jamie Foxx.
Which is fine as far as the look.
This construction site's about as legit as the
look for me, and more about the attitude.
But I'm saying the attitude is there because if you go back, remember he's getting
cracking jokes.
I promise you, he was getting tortured by the dude at Oscorp.
He was more like this, and he was more like sinister, and he was Jamie Foxx and just cracking jokes.
For me, it was like a 7 out of 10 Jamie Foxx and Amazing. This was a 10 out of 10 Jamie Foxx. I wouldn't have minded a couple scenes of transition into like him getting more confident with power.
Right.
Like just like a 7 to a 10, like a 3.
I didn't mind him getting there. I just wish he would have got there.
Sure.
But I think that
I do agree with what you said about the end, but I do think that was not quite full Jamie.
No.
It would have been nice to see a little bit of a tick.
But I did love where he because I was like, okay, if they do this the entire movie, it's just going to be Jamie Foxx. But I think that he gets out of that pretty quick. Once his motivation was to try to get that star power thing and try to, and that's more maniacal comic book his addiction to, he never really wants to go back. No, he's convinced about it the whole way through. So he's got to be, he's very reluctant for that whole while.
So I really appreciate the fact that we got, Doc Ock, who's the crazy because of the leg still. We've got Green Goblin, who we immediately wonder what his motivations are.
Okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I love the one that lands better. That is the same joke. Is you gotta be careful where you're falling. The falling hilarious. So that was like one of the best lines in the Spider-Man movies. Period. But I do feel like they tried to give each one that line except Sandman. Like each villain got a self-deprecating. Where a comic villain line. They all played. Otto's just didn't land as well as the brilliance of the falling line.
Yes. And
who had the falling line again?
Jim Clark.
It was James.
I didn't see the
You gotta be careful where you're falling.
I fell in a bunch of electric eels and I fell in a super collider or whatever.
I mean, Thyroide's counterfeit church dryness juxtaposed Jimmy Fox like horrible losses. Gotta be careful where you're falling.
Speaking of him, though, Sandman, what I thought they played very well is that he doesn't beset as much. I don't trust anybody because every time he tries to do something right, he looks at it and he got betrayed again. So he thought when Peter was, he gets put back in prison, and it's just like, and then Jimmy Fox even says something, he jokes around.
As I was saying in my mini rant was each villain lands mid-arc from where they left off, which is so genius because it's a movie about second chances, and the movie's about giving second chances to almost Sinister Six. You've got 4 different villains getting second chances and then self-actualizing or not. You've got a villain that was wanting power, getting power. You've got a villain that was wanting control, getting control. You've got all these things landing while you're juggling all this stuff. So the character arcs that people don't feel like landed, I think they missed the point.
Yeah, well, if you were to make a bet on which villain was the one that really was going to deliver, a lot of people would say maybe Doc Ock. But, well, listen, as far as making bets and figuring it out, you should, before you even do that, you should do it on DraftKings. And what you need to do on DraftKings, for everybody who didn't really know about DraftKings, it's phenomenal. We've been working with them for a while, but it is Christmas time. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, has a gift that will certainly put you in the holiday spirit. New customers can bet just $5 on any NBA team, and you can win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. It's a great way to get some extra jingle in your pocket. So all DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get in the Christmas spirit with the holiday free bet surprise. What is that? Everyone will get a free bet up to $50 instantly, as DraftKings gives away up to $10 million in prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use that promo code BIGTHING. Bet just $5 on any NBA team. You can win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. That is the promo code BIGTHING this Christmas week at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants to help, call the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Gambling Disorder Helpline at 800-270-7117. It's 21 and over. Michigan only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions. And we'll get to the reveal of how they figured that out, because that was genius. And it was terrifying. But the idea of him, he's like, I'm somewhat of a brilliant scientist myself. Like,
So, callback line, yeah.
Such a great callback.
The callback
didn't you want, though, back to formula?
Oh, that was the one line I was waiting. To keep name dropping, when I was interviewing Willem Dafoe at the premiere,
God, this bitch.
I mentioned that line, and it was before I saw the movie.
Formula?
I know I mentioned the something of science to myself line. I was like, you're actually one of the first memes, blah blah blah, something of science to myself, and he smirks at me with that Green Goblin smirk. Why he smirked, but also like to have the Green Goblin smirking, because it wasn't Willem Dafoe smirking, it was the Green Goblin smirking. So there's footage of me going like I actually got the chill, and I now know he was setting up for my interview. That moment happens on camera, and it's for all of us. Like it was such a nice moment, and he comes in, it's just working together with him, and I love the idea that Doc Ock that we know, and we're probably talking about such a brilliant actor, but how he played it very similar to what he took off in 2002, and why people love that performance so much. And everybody, no matter if you think it's overrated or if you think it's the best superhero movie of all time, there's no one that doesn't say that Aquaman is great, but he carries that over here.
I think what Watts did and what Feige did and all these actors, I think they when they offered them to do this, they're like, this is what we want to do. They, like you said, the same way they read the comments about how do we change the rest of this Holland series to make it better, I think they said, okay, what works? And it's like, I don't think you need to change anything, bro. Right. I think you're fine. I think you know, Defoe, I think the craziness is good, but it was how do we keep the craziness and tone down the kink? And they went through each character. You can tell he directs it. He directs it. Because I'm so excited for the Fantastic Four now. Yeah, well, John Moss, right? Yeah, dude. Well, Moss is going. Yeah. Well, Willem Dafoe is a brilliant actor, and you can tell he took the direction that Sam Raimi gave him, and that was the tone of the movie. And it wasn't really, if you pick the movie, this fits this movie, right? What we're doing here. Because if you would have done that movie completely over the top, right? Because even when he's talking to him, and by the way, they pulled off what The Last Jedi couldn't, and that's why you smash the helmet. He smashes the helmet, and the reason why he smashes the helmet is the same motivation. They didn't want to keep Adam Driver's face covered for the whole movie, and they didn't want to keep Willem Dafoe in that thing the whole entire time. That's how it is. That's all of it. Plus the fact they put the hoodie and made it look more like the old school character. I was glad you recognized it. I was like, man, I was just making sure, buddy. He almost died with you. I mean, I'm already on it right now. But the fact that you were able to get closer to the original costume, I thought was great. And all those face off was it. And remember, it started us in because as an audience member, we're like, you're crazy. Yeah. You were putting donuts in your pussy. That was the hint. That was the hint. When he stole the donuts, that was the donuts. You know, he's so psycho, Norman. I'm still there, right? I'm still there when he was able to do it. And there was that nice moment to where, and it also sets up more about Aunt May. It was like, you gotta help people. Yeah. Oh my God, Aunt May in this. The way they make Feast a character, the way they make Aunt May the reason. I mean, we get to the moment, the sad moment, but the way they make Aunt May his beating heart of compassion, like we hadn't had with a lack of Uncle Ben. Yeah. What they do here, again, going back to my systematically fixing things, is they give us an Uncle Ben for this universe that we've already met, so we care so much more. Yeah. And it makes us retroactively love all the beats with Marissa Tomei in other movies, because she's always been compassionate, always been caring. This is the first time we get full scenes of it. We get to actually live so much of it, and it basically is the reason why he then says, because he is still this, that anger isn't there, right? It's like, I just watched West Side Story, both of them twice. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it recently, the movie. The whole point of the movie is that Maria and Tony are so in love, and they're just, everyone else is consumed by hatred, right? Consumed by this anger, and they aren't, right? They just want to get the hell out of it. They just want to be in love. By the time that, spoiler for people who haven't seen it, by the time Tony dies, Maria now has that anger. And she picks up the gun, and she's like, I can hate now, so I can kill too. I can do that also. Yeah. And that's ultimately what happens to Peter in this. He's consumed by love throughout the whole entire movie, and he's consumed by it. So when he's trying to help, it's all legit. And then that moment, such a great moment when they finally, as they're doing the experiments in the apartment, to Happy's apartment, and they were going to work on everybody, and Alfred Molina's the first one, and they cure him, and he can say, thank you, my boy. And he looks at him, and then he looks at Norman. He's like, Norman, we're back. And then this is the whole point of Electro. Well, Electro,
He doesn't want to do it. He's doing it. He's going along with everybody else.
He keeps staring at it. He's like, I don't know if I want to do this.
And it's Sandman who goes, just chill out.
Yeah.
Just I think it's either the Sandman or is it or I'm pretty sure it was Sandman.
Sandman, because he's the voice of like.
Sandman's like, chill out. Just do it. Just relax, and we're gonna figure this all out. And look, it worked on him, and then it plays into that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm leaving everything out, but
we skipped the Doctor Strange moment, but it's we skipped the Doctor Strange.
I did that in my spoiler review.
So there's a 5-minute sequence in this, which this is a spoiler talk.
Very important. Very important.
That is probably the best visual representation of Doctor Strange comics I have ever seen. I love Scott Derrickson; he's a fantastic director, but I feel like the Doctor Strange movie had to do so much. We didn't get sequences like this. This sequence ends with science. It ends with Peter Parker using science against magic and defeating Doctor Strange. But like he uses the Peter Parker brain to take out the most powerful sorcerer, maybe Wong is right now, but you know what I'm saying? And he does it in a way that's only inside. I mean, come on, let's be real. But he does it in a way that is playful. He does it in a way that entire sequence is both of them fighting, which always happens in comic books. Every comic book is like, instead of teaming up, they're gonna fight first, then team up. We got that entire sequence, and these are two creations from Steve Ditko and Stan Lee from the same year. These characters have been tied together in their own interesting way, and now in the true Ultimate Spider-Man movie, for my money, they get to interact in a way that is so authentic to both their characters and elevates both of them in the MCU.
Dude, the best moment was watching that fight with Christian where he knocks him out of his body. And he was like, Christian at first thought it was really campy that like Spider-Man was, and I was like, no, dude, that's Spider Sense.
No,
I thought you were like, what the hell?
No.
Okay.
And I also like when at one point
Spider Sense.
I said that's hilarious. Because he's like the idea. You did point out like the Spider Sense. You said you can see
the lines.
Yeah. No, I love them.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that part was campy.
No.
The second time I watched it, so it's like a 5-second scene, but the first second he's like using one hand, and then the last time he tries to do both. And Spider-Man does this like swoopy move that is literally from the comic books. Like, and it was the one time I was like, oh, that's why he has to be CGI sometimes.
Yeah, he said, but I also it was such a great Spider-Man moment also because he then says that was really cool. Just don't do it ever again.
Yeah. And him swimming gleefully back into his body, like it's so Spider-Man. So that whole Doctor Strange sequence, like to me, that could have been the movie, and I'm glad it wasn't because this was amazing. But I did see like, oh, this is what this could have been. And how they're going to advertise.
Yes, and that was why when you see in the trailer like the Inception part, with all the buildings, and he goes, where are we? He's like, we're in the mirror dimension. Like, great. Okay, great explanation of it. Makes so much more sense, too. And then him trying to play it out going,
oh, this is just a blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the words. I'm not a scientist.
So then he, and then, yes, we left that out. So we get back to the apartment.
When they're doing more science.
When it all goes down, right? And then it's Doc Ock, Norman, so we think, and Peter, and the Spider Sense below. And it's first J. Jonah Jameson comes in.
So we think.
Wait a minute, wasn't it? I thought it was from Jonah, but it was we're watching the tick of Electro. Like his thing's about to go off. So they're all there.
They're all there. I'm saying, but they're in a side room.
Got it.
But and we also
there's a great comedy scene with Jamie and him, and he's like, I'm like, cause he's like, I have one question. Those your Legos?
Oh yeah.
That whole scene that was worth to get into the Jamie stuff quickly because I needed that moment.
It was. And then the Lizard is in the band. Doesn't want to have any. The Lizard's another one. He's not. He wants nothing to do.
He wants to make everybody a lizard. He made that very clear.
That was funny too. He's like, I could make you so much better. He's like, why? Make me a lizard? Yes. It was good. It was really good. And they had that like whatever's going on in the van. At one point, people walk by. They go, what's going on in there? With the lizard and
with the
and then J. Jonah Jameson.
The Forest Hills Movers written over with
Beast
was so like my heart, my Spidey heart.
Well, J. Jonah Jameson comes in. Now he's and this is the whole thing. He's been trying for the whole time to really expose Peter, expose the whole thing.
Dude, while you're bringing up J. Jonah Jameson, the thing we didn't talk about with him is the fact that he is so shrunk in his basement.
Oh, the green screen
and then he's got the full studio once he actually drops that. But that was amazing.
That reveal when they pulled out, and I was like, oh, he's a YouTuber. I've done this. This is rough, JJ.
Very, very different from what we've seen in the past. But he goes there and got his crew with them, and they're like just ready to set him up. They know something's going to happen. They know they're going to be able to expose this kid finally.
I don't have this many friends.
And then the Spider Sense goes off, and as an audience member, you're like, what's he sense?
Yeah.
What is it? And then he's looking at it, because what they did so brilliantly is, even Willem Dafoe is looking around like, what do you hear?
Yeah.
And then you're like, what's he hearing? What's happening? And then he's like, something is wrong. Something is off. and he's just moving around looking, and he hits Willem Dafoe.
And then we finally hear that laugh, that beautiful.
You just know it, and that speech that he gives, and you understand.
While fighting him, honestly, I know you love the Doctor Strange, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
To me, this was even before the last fight, this was the fight of the movie for me.
Oh,
just because physicality, but not only the physicality, it was bone chilling.
Yeah.
Because then there's points where like Dafoe is slamming him through the floor.
When he's jumping over the ricochet and he's punching him in the face and he's gobbling laughing in your face.
But before that, even before it pops off, it's that speech that he gives right before they start fighting, where he's just like, he knows what he's going to do, and then that's how he's able to convince both Jamie and Electro and Sandman, and he's just like, you know, what's he say? Something along the lines of like, we're kings or whatever,
gods,
whatever it is. And Jamie's like, nope, I'm out. And then even Sandman's like, and you're like,
and then straight up Ultimate Spider-Man by the way. His outfit, the speech, everything. And he's the one that got us to Sinister Six in the Ultimate Universe. They just did it.
It was so great. So and then the fight happened. He's kicking his ass the whole way through. He's trying to figure a way out of it, and everybody's kind of taking off. And now J. Jonah Jameson gets his footage, he's able to do it. Blizzard goes out, and you're like, oh, this is where it all goes down. Right? You know the trailers alone, stuff you're gonna see, and then we get to the moment. Right? And so the fight's happening. He's getting choked out. It's over, and May comes in. And so we just watched Matrix recently, and again, people who have not seen the third Matrix, is spoiler for you. So there's a scene at the end of Matrix, the third movie, and as Neo and Trinity are together, there's like a quick crash and a quick shot. If you pause it, you will see Trinity get impaled. It's quick. Same thing here.
Yeah, I noticed on the second watch.
So when the glider comes in,
I didn't see her get impaled. I just saw her
get hit,
and I was like, "That's a."
She got tossed by the glider. Trinity got impaled, but you still see that she got hit hard enough that you know it's going to be a problem.
Which is why because at first I was like,
I bought her acting the first one.
I bought it at first too, and I was like, but that doesn't make logical sense. That thing was going like she must be dead because that thing was going like 60 miles per hour.
I knew it was over. Like there was going to be some kind of. I just didn't know when it was coming, but I knew there was going to be a blood reveal.
Yeah.
Like whether it was like a blood drop started to come from where she was talking, or ultimately what happened where he goes and he just sees it's over.
Yeah.
But she's just trying to be that calm presence she always has been for him.
Yeah.
And it's just this is where
I got a bunch of incapacitated criminals and designer narcotics all wrapped up and waiting
Tom
for me.
Holland is what he does.
Great,
He
I'll
just
just
makes you
consider
feel
this
like
an
there's
anonymous
another
tip.
scene I'm going to talk about in a moment. But this particular scene, what he's able to do and the emotion, and then Favreau coming in and looking at Favreau. Favreau knows. He doesn't have to say anything. He just knows. Like right then and there. And that it's tragic. And the way that we've seen death scenes a million times over if you watch enough movies. There's something that this kid does, and the way he's like, "Come on, cut it out. Let's do that. Come on." It almost reminds me of like Simba, you know. And he's like, "Come on, May, cut it out," and it's just. It's all he has. There is no Ben. We find out. There really, at least not.
Yeah, and at the first watch, I'll admit, and it's skipping ahead, but in the first watch, I was really bothered by the tombstone not being Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I was really bothered by May Parker not having a Ben Parker tombstone next to it.
Oh, I was.
Because there isn't.
Yeah, there is no.
And my brain was like, ooh, that's disrespectful. Then I was like, no, we had an entire scene about Uncle Ben not being a factor.
We went with the second.
So my comic brain had to go like, quiet now, and my movie brain. But it was great because the second watch, I was able to go, oh, this is this universe. Right. Enjoy this.
Right, because the second she says, "With great power comes great responsibility," that told me there is no Ben in this.
Yep. And that beautifully worked for me.
Because and then it's referenced by both Toby and Andrew who say, "Oh, for us it was Ben that said that."
And I love that later we get Andrew saying Gwen because that does change the Martin Sheen dynamic, which is we'll get there. But the death of Aunt May is, I think, the reason this might beat Spider-Verse for me is because I love Spider-Verse in that it does so many things to get the character right.
Yeah.
But I've never cried during a Spider-Man movie, and I've never felt what I felt in the comics for the loss of Spider-Man until this one.
Yeah,
I got close with Gwen.
It gets you. It has more time than, to be fair to Spider-Verse, it has more time to do that to you. And it also has a lot more movies to do that to you because of all the
it's the 7th or 8th movie, not first.
That's what it has. That's what it has over Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse standing as alone as just a single movie. Of course, I'm agreeing with you that I think that of both these movies, this is the one I'll probably.
Now he's going to have a tough time
I'll go back and want to watch.
I might watch this
Operation Run.
But that's because it has more stuff. Is it out at the end already?
It is. Today was today.
But I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, if I could find a single seat, like I know it's sold out. I'm like,
risk.
good, man.
Good for New
No,
York.
it's and then that's I plan on going on Saturday and Sunday and just finding time to do that.
Willie,
but yeah,
funny story. I was just at one of your buildings.
I was
Then you'll
trying
be
to
shocked to
stifle
hear
it,
that
but
there
I
were
couldn't.
shenanigans of the criminal variety.
Yeah, I heard.
TLDR, Fisk Construction is closed.
I have other sources of revenue.
But
you inconvenience
but I don't know if you can tell where it got me, when it got me.
My
But
memory's
there
long.
was one particular moment that
My
I'll get into.
reach is
But
longer.
there was.
I should make all the guys who've sworn to kill me
He's out.
fight it out for the
He's
privilege.
done. This sets us up.
Yeah.
This is the big setup because now he's gone, and now that Peter Parker that we've known that tries to help everybody, and he's trying to figure it out, who wanted to save, who took the whole box away just to make sure, because he did not want these characters to die. He didn't want to send them back, knowing he could have fixed them. That's gone.
Yeah.
He's now just pure anger and rage because he feels that he's once again responsible.
Dude, this moment for me, I think why it hit me so hard. My best friend out of college, his mom had been fighting cancer, and she beat it 6 times. This is her 7th bout with cancer, and a doctor messed up and gave her the wrong dosage.
Oh man!
So then she had a massive heart attack, and then that was it. And it was the same thing for him, where his mom was the thing that kept him in check and kept him together. And after that, I mean, he's doing great now, but at the time, he was a ball of rage for years because that was the one thing. So it really affected me because I remember we had just
What do you know about
graduated.
Sable
we'd moved
International?
in, and I remember the phone call he got, and I remember like he was in shock. He punched like through a door, and like I didn't know what to say to him, and it didn't
The last thing we
train
need
me
is a
because
city
she
full
was
of
like a serious
trigger-happy mercenaries.
So that's why this took me out so hard, and it was done so because the same language Tom was using was like we're playing like come on, same thing.
No,
He's like, what are you talking
this is
about?
Norman
Right?
Osborn
She was just
feeling
going for a routine.
This denial, and that's one of the reasons why a particular scene hit me a different way, was that when this happens, he goes off, and now we get to our moment, because now you have MJ and Ned just want to find their friend.
Yeah.
They know how hurt he is. They know, they can feel it. They just want to be there for their friend. So at this point, we kind of, I think, figured out that Ned could do the magic at one point. I'm not sure.
He was a funky hand thing when they were.
Oh, right. He did a couple of those things. So and now we get to the part we've already addressed it. He's opening up portals, whatever. But he's like, I just wish we could find Peter Parker. Oh, do that again.
Yeah.
I just wish we could find Peter Parker. And then you see that figure in the back.
Oh.
Winston called it right away. And a part of me was like, nice call. And part of it was like, why don't you just let me enjoy that?
My bad. It's because Andrew just his height and the shape of his head.
Yeah.
You can
so
immediately
specific.
tell all 3 of them differently.
Yeah.
But it got me excited when you said it. Because and I'm like, oh, you're right.
So I had
a Garfield dog.
I had a moment like you did. I saw my manager's phone went off right as the portal opened, and he lit up. And I was like, if you take your fucking phone out, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I literally like whispered that at him. That was real. I did. The impact was important. But I literally had the same thing. I was like, this is the most important moment of my life. If you ruin this for me right now, I swear. And I don't know that I've ever felt that big of a swelling of emotion in a movie since, the Thor landing in Endgame, Cap wielding the shield in Endgame, like those moments. But this was tied to my childhood. Like this was my entire life led to this.
So different from because this was why people didn't know when there was rumored how these 2 guys were going to be in the movie. Like, how long? Is it going to be like a cameo thing? Is it going to be? And thank God I was right. There was no freaking Spider-Ham in this movie. But anyway, but I love Spider-Ham, but that's not for this movie.
That's Peter Porker, totally different, man.
But the idea was how they were going to make this work. And when they got here, they had already set up things so great that it made sense of how these guys were going to work into this movie if they did it the right way, and they do it the right way. So he comes in, and this scene, you talk about the humor in this movie combined with the emotional moments. And Garfield comes in, reveals his face. It's reminding me of wrestling also too. It's just like we haven't seen one of the old school kind of wrestlers in a long time.
Oh my God, Stone Cold!
Yeah.
Stone Cold!
Oh my God, it's Garfield! It's Garfield! And he does, and he comes back and he does his moment, but then he's like, "You're not Peter Parker." He's like, "Yeah, no, I kind of am." And then he's just like, prove it. And he does this. She's like, "That doesn't prove anything."
No, crawl the ceiling.
Well, no, first he goes, "This doesn't prove anything."
This
crawl,
is plenty.
Crawl. and it's that classic Garfield Spider-Man that we got. Like to this day, out of the 3 of them, he still has the best wit
I stand by it. This is probably where you want to get your questions in about my thoughts on certain trio.
Well, we haven't revealed him yet.
Okay, well, in the next 5 minutes. But I will say, with this Garfield reveal, as soon as he showed up, I was like, this is Spider-Man. And then it just stayed that way for the next hour and a half. Like, as soon as he showed up, I was like, I now know the truth.
But you know what they did, though, Corey, even though that's obviously a funny bit, but the thing is, they made it so that everybody can have a Spider-Man.
Oh, 100%. Anyone can wear the mask. Anyone can watch that.
Yeah, and they made it that here's your three. These are the three.
Yeah.
They all count now.
And they're all different. And that's what I like about them all.
We got to see them beforehand, but it's different now because, like I said before, now when you go back and you watch the Raimi ones, they all tie into this movie. Now it's brilliant. It's a brilliant move. That ties in.
Dude, they literally all got stars in Mario, bro. Like all of a sudden, even if you were like, I'm about to die right here, all of the bad movies got a massive level up.
Now. They are. This is not
like Thor: Dark World, where they made it like, oh, look what we fixed.
This is not a 3-movie set. This is an 8-movie set.
Yeah,
it completely is because of all the references that come in. Will you be lost if you haven't seen the movies? No. But if you have seen all of them, after doing that rewatch that we did, it was so much more relevant.
I agree. I would say you at least need to watch the 2 Tom Hollands.
Dude, all of them.
You
mean it did not get lost? Yes.
You need to at least see the 2 Tom Hollands.
Of course.
But it's better if you watch everything.
My premiere date, the girl I brought hadn't seen anything since Spider-Man 2. She didn't see Spider-Man 3, she hadn't seen Amazing 1, hadn't seen Amazing 2, hadn't seen Tom, hadn't seen Tom. Loved.
Yeah.
Because this, I'm the rare exception of, I literally was like, as soon as the credits were like, what was that for you?
Yeah.
She said
was that for the movie or something else?
I'm gonna just give Christian MVP of the day.
Whoa.
I'm like, he's on Alpha Brain or something. I'm just giving kids.
Go ahead and take me out.
Yeah,
bro.
man.
Just go ahead and finish me, bro. Because Christian did it. Just go.
You're on the clock. Oh man! All right. So
we'd like to trade our first-round draft, Joe.
Sure.
So she
you get 10% off a DraftKings.
Hadn't seen most of the movies, but is a comic nerd and loves the comics and loves the world. So she was like, she actually was able to love Tom Holland immediately, and now I want her to watch Homecoming and Far From Home to see her experience of it, because she immediately understood Garfield's whole thing.
Right.
And he's got that, to me, the reason Garfield's my favorite is when he puts on the Spider-Man suit, it's still the same neurotic thing, it's just defensive humor, but when he's Spider-Man, he's self-deprecating and he's self-effacing, and to me, Spider-Man, if you stay too similar in and out of the suit, it's not the character.
Sure.
And I feel like Tom, it's really ironic to me. Everyone's like, Andrew Garfield was too cool. I'm like, no, he was a defense mechanism. He was skateboarding to try to be comfortable. He was doing all these things that weren't cool. It was dismissive. And then Tom, to me, is cool. Like, Tom is like...
But this is the other difference, though. This is why you can say that in every single... This is what they did so well for all these movies. Even if you feel that Peter Parker is too cool, right? That's how he is in that universe.
Right, it's all subjective.
And it's like, he's a little too angry in the Raimi universe. That's how he behaved in that universe.
Yeah.
And in this, they set that up.
It's all accurate.
And it's not people go, but that's easy to say. You can say about any character. No, because that's not set up in any other movie. But it's set up in this movie.
The multiverse is real for this.
Here's the other brilliance, and again, you don't have to watch this, but it helps explain this. If you have seen Loki, it also sets that up, because all the Lokis, there is a specific element of Loki that is true to all of them, but Alligator Loki is different than Selvey, is different than Loki, is different than...
I had a question for both of you. Wait, both of you, I don't know, and I feel like it's no, but the thing that Ned has, not Ned.
Spider-Man?
Yes, that he gives him to shoot back in. Is that an Eternals thing?
No, that's definitely. I see where you're getting that, because this type of iconography, but it's definitely like a Doctor Strange.
I'm interested in spell.
I figured it just looked like something that. But all right, so back to the moment. So Garfield is there, and he's
cleaning cobwebs.
And the grandmother.
All this stuff. It's like, she says, "Can you get up?" Since you made can you go up there and clean up the cobwebs since you're up there? And he's like, ugh. Yeah. And I love how his respect for his elders is what makes him do it. He's not gonna let some child tell him to crawl around. But a grandma says, "Can you clean this up for me?" He's like,
respect for it. And then it's like, okay, well, that's not. We need to find them. So just keep trying it until you do it. The second they say that, you know.
And then Andrew making that face of like, "Where's the real Peter Parker?" Parker, and Andrew and to me that felt like what he heard for years. Andrew Garfield was told that as Spider-Man for years.
But what's interesting about this is the fact that, knowing that, is it because Ned and MJ said that's not Peter Parker, that's why they start flinging at each other? Because they fight for half a second.
Yes, because the whole when he comes in, he's like, that's not our friend, and he's like, oh, that's not your. And
yeah, it's like a Western defense mechanism.
Find out what it is. And what I really thought was great, and we get to the funniest line of the whole movie in a second, but when they're fighting and then Toby is not in a costume, I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't want to put on the costume. It plays to the future when what does he call him? He calls him
Years past. That was after they left the
that was later. That was later. So are you going to suit up for battle? Or are you going to walk around with
that was
hilarious. And so any of that, and so we get back to that thing where they have to figure it out.
Yep.
They got to figure out what's going on, and then they all
behind this time.
They all work together and figure out we're going to help your friend. He's like, well, where would you go? For me, it was the Empire State Building. For me, it was Price of Bed.
It was a better view.
It was everything when they were going that chemistry right away that they had. Like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
they set this up already. This is going to be fun. Just wait until they get Tom involved. Like, let's go see your friend. So this is the moment to me that really got me, the one I started to choke up on, because there is a moment, and I don't know, and you clearly from the story you just told, you have felt this. I don't know if anybody has felt the loss of somebody or real grief.
There must be more clues in Lee's office at least.
You don't really want to have somebody feel you. I hope that everybody is going to feel it one time in their life, maybe more. But there is it's just an indescribable feeling. So when Tom Holland is on that roof and he is just overtaken, I right away went back to when my brother passed away. I felt it right away. It was that same feeling. Because that is what that guy brought out. I was like, that's real grief that he feels right now. I don't know where he went, the actor. I don't know where he went to feel that, but I've been there, and he's doing it. And then this just wonderfully sweet moment of the three of them. You don't see it hugging. It's this hug, and I got to tell you, Ned's not my favorite character. I think he's a good character. He's just not my favorite. He's just a little annoying to me sometimes. What he's doing and the way he's just holding on to his friend, I focused in on him when I saw him because he's just had this big bear hug, and then obviously the three of them together, it was such a great moment, and they didn't have to do anything yet with our two guys until they did. And I go, well, there's people here to see you. There's people. He's like, people, what are you talking about?
Shot, that silhouette shot of two Spider-Men on the thing, and we kept getting those moments of pure comic iconography, but this was so weighted in sorrow, and I think that one of the things I've been missing from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is, yes, we lost Iron Man, so there's sorrow there. Yes, we've lost this, there's sorrow there, but there's a depth of grief in this scene that feels so like Spider-Man is about loss.
And to see
this scene with two Spider-Men in silhouette, which is, Spider-Man can be a really dark character. So we've got that image, then we've got grief-ridden Tom. It is the most Spider-Man I've felt in a live-action movie.
It is, because they all relate to it, basically saying, we've been there, dude. Yeah. For me, it was Uncle Ben, and I remember thinking, well, it was Uncle Ben for him, too, but he's like,
and I think, because I think what they did set up for that, and it was actually something you texted us a couple, while I was in Vegas, so I just couldn't respond. The scene of him just standing outside, continuously outside of Gwen's. It's not obviously that Peter doesn't care about Uncle Ben, but that one just truly. That's because in the comics too, it truly defines. In the Silver Age comics, and honestly, it actually defines comic books in a really big way. Amazing Spider-Man 122, when Gwen Stacy died, was so big for comic books. Comic books went from the Silver to the Bronze Age within 6 months, and actually changed size. Comic books were an eighth of an inch on the top and a quarter inch wider, physically bigger in the Silver Age of comic books. The death of Gwen Stacy was, in my opinion, so big that it changed comic books. So I would say, Uncle Ben, giant, impactful. The reason we have Spider-Man is great power, great responsibility, but Uncle Ben was the beginning of the journey of grief. And I would say that without Gwen Stacy, we don't have Mary Jane.
Well, they even say that. They say that whole thing. Say Gwen was my MJ. Is what he says, and then he's like, well, it was for me. It was Uncle Ben, because because Toby even makes reference to, well, MJ and I worked it out. here. Everything's going good. Which, you see, and this is something we got to get into the Toby conversation, because this version of Peter Parker, this is a guy that is in his 40s and is now he's past all that anger and the selfishness and the things that we had the problem with.
That's what was so cool is watching a 40s Spider-Man, watching a late 20s, early 30s Spider-Man, and then this kid, and the three, like they mentioned later, I always wanted brothers. This idea that these three, and that's what did it for you, huh?
Yeah, it was. To me, it was that once we established a relationship between the three of them, they're brothers. Yeah. And they're related in a way, to where it's the older brother, and it was so relevant to the Spider-Man stuff, because if you listen to any stuff that you have, whether you have grievances about Tobey or not, Andrew Garfield has always said that the second that he got the role, Tobey was very supportive of him, told him do your thing, and then Andrew Garfield did the same thing to Tom. So now the fact that the three of them are basically doing that same thing and making reference to the way that they did it, and to their movies, and even when Tobey cracks himself when he's look. This is what I have to bring up because but wait, I might have to stay. I want to stay in the scene though before we go to that. So when they're basically telling him, because Andrew has that emotional, tell him about Gwen Stacy, and then Tobey talking about Uncle Ben and saying, I know you have to rage and you want to take him out, but we got to do this together. And it's that moment of okay, now we know these guys are going to work together. Yeah.
And that scene for me was not just impacting for Tom Spider-Man, it was impacting for all the movies and for the mythos of Spider-Man. It gave us every bit of those movies landing who Spider-Man is retroactively and going forward. So to me, that did what Endgame did in fixing continuity issues, but in a 24-year span.
Crazy.
It's insane what they accomplished.
And they go and they start making this, and that's when we now transition into them now having to work together in the lab and do all that. Yeah. Great lines, great back and forth.
We got the point.
Watching all of the point. Everybody keeps saying that there's one later with them when they're
on the roof. There's another one too.
Sure, but I thought this was the one with Peter Parker. Who?
They didn't have to do it by the trash cans. They did it in the lab. But the one thing that I want, there's a few things that I wanted to see that I was bummed that we didn't see. I wanted to see Tobey look at JJ and go, he looks the same now than he did in mine. That would have been fun. But what I really loved, I said they have to make reference. I think we see this in the rewatch. They have to make reference that these guys are shooting. And they
and it came up twice.
Great. Where does it come? You just make it? Does it ever come out anywhere else? Do you ever have any issues?
And Tobey's delivery is fantastic.
This is the best I've ever liked Tobey.
And he's just
I've been wondering this whole time. What was
I asked Christian in the middle of the screening. I was like, I wonder how Coy's gonna feel about this because I honestly feel like this is a whole new bag.
This is Tobey Maguire. I think this is how other people have seen Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that I was unable to see. I'm going to give full credit. He is, on record, not my favorite Spider-Man. This portrayal of Spider-Man by a 40-year-old, well now 50, but playing 40-year-old Spider-Man, is the character I think that other people saw.
He's not 50. He's not 50? No, he's probably 50.
I thought him and DiCaprio had just said 50.
46.
Oh.
Okay. Either way, this mature Tobey Maguire is exactly what I think I wanted out of the ones that when I rewatched I felt less and less of. So this character was great.
I think the two things there probably is A, they're kind of making him play angsty teen, and he really, since he was so far removed from it, I don't necessarily know if it worked. And B, again, we were complaining about not seeing the scientist, and the fact is I've been thinking about it. If I ever had another shot, I'm going to go make this anti-serum for him. I think I can really do it. And I was like, look at him out here doing chemistry.
Immediately, it was all the things I wanted out of Tobey Spider-Man. And to this day, seeing all three of them side by side, and this was one of my only concerns going in, because the rumors were loud. That three of them were in it. I was like, will it work that everyone will love them together because they play Spider-Man so differently? A part of me was worried that it'd be like, ooh, these Spider-Man meshing.
But it was the sibling.
It was the opposite.
They embraced
chemistry.
It was a meta. It was very meta. The way that the way that they approached it, of the way that these guys played Spider-Man, the way that they were perceived as Spider-Man, the problems that some people had with all of the Spider-Man together, and infused it in the storyline was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was brilliant the way that they did it, because then it was like, and then we lead to that line of, all right, let's get into battle and fight these guys. And say, are you going to actually dress up, or are you going to go as a cool youth pastor? It was, and Tobey was never the guy that was like that he was
never a showboat.
He was grown so much from that. Peter Parker had grown so much that he was just like, relax. And then even when they're busting his, not even busting his chops on the bridge, he thinks they are. When he's like, they go back to the
webbing thing.
The
Like,
webbing
you guys
thing.
making fun of me?
And he's like, no, legit. Like, I really want to know. Like, they're not breaking each other's chops because that could have gotten old really quick.
Yeah.
They're just playing with each other, but having fun, having conversations. Very curious on how it all works, and it led to it. Even Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. That got a little confusing though to figure out who was who.
I love Peter 3 though, because Andrew Garfield being the Spider-Man that I see him as is self-deprecating. Peter 3, like, there was such a great moment. Like, that's my guy.
Yeah, no, it was because a lot of people have said that, even though we feel differently, and I think you would too. A lot of people have been like, I think Tom Holland is the first one.
Nice composition, if I do say so myself.
A lot of other people that are obsessed with the Raimi ones have said. So that's almost the ranking at which people.
And that's what's so funny to me. And that's why Andrew saying that almost to camera, and that being also his character. It was appropriate in our reality and this movie's reality and Tom's reality.
Yeah, perfect. And what did they? And they had that.
The Rhino joke was genius.
Rhino joke was. Oh my god. What's the craziest villain you guys?
I had a black alien too. I fought a guy in space.
Yeah.
Space.
Let's not leave out the Avengers.
The Avengers. That was the best one. I've always said this solo. I don't know what they do. Okay, I've been on the Avengers. Like,
you were the Avengers. And again, going back to the fact they weren't messing with it. Yeah, they're like, the Avengers is
Ground control. What's the situation in the financial
That's so cool. It's like the Earth's mightiest defense.
He's like, we don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. If they're relevant right now. Like, Toby making jokes is the Spider-Man that I honestly think this was the movie that everyone else saw the Sam Raimi movies as. And to me, this was the three of them at their best. All three of them gave their best Spider-Man.
And you know why? All three of them are having a lot of fun.
Just having the time of their lives. I guarantee.
Andrew's such a big fan of Toby and Tom, and vice versa.
And I think both of them, like you said, like obviously Tom is excited because this is a big culmination and all that. But the other two, watching it and knowing how iconic this was going to be, they were like, well, "Let's just."
This is the biggest moment of our lives. Let's suit up.
Back cracking.
The back cracking, and that being a reference to the Seabiscuit pain and the Spider-Man suit and Andrew helping. Yeah, and then like Andrew helping him and knowing exactly what that feels like because they're the aging Spider-Man. Like all of that was just so perfect.
That's what I mean. It all played in because the way that they wrote it in was that if you really paid attention to everything that was going on with the casting of these guys and all this stuff, you would get it. And if you didn't, you just part of the plot.
Look at three Spider-Man
playing part of the plot playing. So then they start fighting. They get the villains. They're coming in, and then they start picking them off, doing all that, and then here comes the Goblin.
Yeah.
And the Goblin coming in, and the Goblin now, when he grabs, and now because Peter here's the main moment, right? He goes and he's about to get MJ. She falls. Goblin comes in, swoops him out, and then Andrew Garfield jumping in and doing it. But I mean, a lot of people had said, I think that's Garfield doing it, but it's something you can predict it all day long. But when actually seeing it, feeling it,
the crowd erupted.
Yeah, because when he did it, and it again shows you how great Garfield is. It was everything. He didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Just in his eyes, he's just like it was sorrow, it was happiness, it was everything that he needed to do because it was a thing that has been haunting him forever.
We saw closure.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry because I went back into my black man talking mode where I was just like, redemption. I don't know if you ever seen. I definitely as soon as he caught her and then landed and he started crying, I said, redemption.
Yeah,
and that moment meant the world to me. Like I needed that moment so bad.
Big battle.
It so much.
And then we get to the part where Goblin and him are fighting on that wherever the hell they're fighting, and the Captain America shield thing.
That was really funny when they were like, they're going to deface the
another national monument,
and then it falls off.
Yeah, literally, Jonah's saying, and now Spider-Man's going to deface another national monument is from the comics. Like that is directly perfect.
So they have this battle. They're fighting on the sand and whatever it is, and then Toby says, Tom says, "I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
And good! He went full Emperor.
And that boy.
And the way they're fighting, the brutality. What I love about Spider-Man is that, like, he is so close to the edge at all times. Like, the reason I've always defended the Clone Saga, because to me that's an existential crisis. It wasn't written that way, but I always saw the Clone Saga as, with great power comes great responsibility. What if you took that responsibility too far and kind of snapped, and you needed an escape, and then you've got this guy that's running around blonde and happy? It's like a midlife crisis character.
It's Batman as well. It's the same thing, where it's like, you have to draw the line in the sand somewhere, and you have done the one thing that you can't do, and so, like you said, watching that, and the fact that, and I think it was brilliant, that Andrew was the one that had to catch MJ because I think that redemption, I think Tony needed to be the one to stop him because he, of all of them, have seen that rage beyond anything.
Oh, he also caught the glider that killed. It was the moment that he couldn't do with Goblin.
Right.
They all got the moment they couldn't do. He got to stop the glider. He got to catch the.
Stabbed him.
Oh man!
I thought he was gone. I was like,
dude.
I think a lot of people did when he gets stabbed and he falls, and then he plays references like, I've been stabbed.
Am I dying or is that real?
He let the whole they let the whole audience know very quickly, like, oh, is he dead? Is he? Nah, I'm good. And so when all that happens and all that plays, and then when Andrew throws him the thing and he takes him out and he comes back. The way that they played it, and then Doc Ock obviously coming in, nobody was fooled, right? That Doc Ock, nobody was fooled because.
But it makes sense. Electro's ego would be though. Like that played for my storyline.
It worked to me that the villains were fooled.
Right.
It didn't work. If they were trying to fool us, that wasn't.
I wasn't sure because remember the reason
their whole plan would be crap though.
No. I know that. I'm saying you thought that he was dead.
No. I'm saying that there was no way that he was coming back a villain.
But this is why I wasn't sure because I don't know if you remember.
Electro zapped him. You were afraid.
Exactly.
I had a moment of that.
So the reason in Spider-Man 2 he had that energy feedback that blew up the chip, and that's why the arm started talking to him.
So when Electro zapped him,
Electro zapped the hell out of him. I thought he tried the.
Well, they went quick with it though.
Yeah.
I thought maybe, and then they'd show the back of his neck or something. But I was very happy that it wasn't.
Turns them all, and it was great. So then, obviously, the redemption.
Also,
happens.
the Lizard fighting Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man made me so happy because that was supposed to happen for 4 years.
Oh right.
Like when we saw him in the old Sam Raimi suit fighting the Lizard, I was like, it was like a Dylan Baker moment. Like finally, Lizard.
That's why I want to go back and watch this movie again. But
they picked
the opposite villains. Things start breaking through, and the walls and they show the silhouette
there
of Rhino.
There must be more clues in Lee's office at Feast.
So you did see Kraven?
I saw Kraven, Rhino, and I think Scorpion.
Okay.
I thought I saw another Mysterio. I swore I saw the fishbowl head.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to frame by frame this beast.
That was my other thing that I was curious though. Are we just assuming then that Mysterio dropping the bomb on all of this was the 6 of the Sinister Six? Because we didn't get 6, we got 5.
We got like 4.5. I'm really.
That counts. He was fighting.
He was a villain for a bit. I do wonder if down the line we need to maybe bring back the other Spider-Man to fight the Sinister Six or something. Like now that we've met them, will they do? Because I was very public. Like they won't do not Sinister Six. They won't have 5 and not be the 6. They didn't. There was no Sinister Six.
Well, I wonder because then everything starts to crack through. You're like, how are they going to figure this out? And then. Part of me was like, when they were doing though, when it was cracking through, and Doctor Strange was saying, "All right, well, I don't know how to do this." And he said, "Well, can you make a spell now that basically says that they all forget that Peter Parker exists, or can you do that?" And he's like, "I can do that, and it'll work, but like everybody will." And I thought to myself, "Oh, just ask him to do a couple." But then we're right back to where we started, so I get it. And then he does, and he has a great moment with Mary Jane, and it reminded me of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yes,
very much. Like when she find me in Montauk. Like, find me in Montauk. Come to Montauk.
Save it then.
And this is, to me, the outside of all the Spider-Man stuff that we talked about, when he comes, when the spell is cast, and he goes to find MJ, and he sees her happy, and he sees that Band-Aid.
It doesn't hurt anymore.
He goes, I can't do this to them.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the Andrew Garfield stuff, where Dennis Leary was like, don't get them involved in this. Don't get her involved in this. And he's like, I gotta set you free.
And Spider-Man does that often.
Yeah. And how heartbreaking was it with that scene with him and Happy? Did you think Happy was going to be like kind of like
maybe? But I think that was that one hurt. But I think that's what Peter needed.
Yeah.
Because I think that making the sacrifice to not bring his friends back in was a lot. And I think even though Happy doesn't know who he is, Happy at his core, for all of his faults, is one of the best people in this entire universe.
Took out a lot of memories, though. That spell took a lot of memories with Happy and Tony, though, because Tony he still knows who Spider-Man is.
So Spider-Man was still there. So you're talking about the moments where we're like in the car driving him around and
all of that. But imagine in your mind, you're like, well, how did Tony get Spider-Man involved? And you're like, well, he's always been involved, but how?
But that's the thing about like memory. Like that is how memory works. Like all the time, I'm like, how did that happen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But either way, so then it pretty much wraps, and he has to embrace that he's Spider-Man. I love the J. Jonah Jameson part where they let us know about him. He's like, if he was so heroic,
he'd take off his mask.
Take off his mask. Like, okay, so
also, the scene earlier, way earlier, when he's broken and he's standing in front of that giant Jonah yelling at him was such a beautiful comic
It was
moment.
great.
That was so...
The rage.
That was such a beautiful silhouette.
So that's the entire... So then we get to the really one post scene.
Wait, we didn't talk about one of the best scenes in the movie, the goddamn new costume.
Oh yeah, hit me.
Okay, he made a costume. It isn't powered. He's finally Spider-Man. He's not Iron Man Jr. in any way. He's finally relying on himself.
It's just so shiny.
It is very shiny. But also, it was lit in a very shiny area and reflecting off the snow. But also, there was a lot of light.
But also, and I forgot the thing that I noticed too. But okay.
We got our Sam Raimi Spidey swinging moment.
I get that. So here's the one thing that I don't think that. So remember, he was swinging and he swung by the tree, and I think I said this to you at the screener, but maybe I didn't. If you needed to know where everything was going on, and if we got sort of our Sinister Six, but he just doesn't make an appearance, but we got the reference from earlier in the movie, that is the exact same tree and the exact same kind of setup during Hawkeye, when Hawkeye is dealing with King. So technically, Kingpin was kind of floating around. He didn't do anything.
There was also a line of dialogue in Hawkeye this week saying, what was it? We got the Rogers musical in the movie, but we also got
the Statue of
Liberty. Yeah, so she's talking about adding the shield. Yeah.
So they have that. The Rogers musical exists in the film, and the tree. Those are the three things that immediately let you know. Okay, all of
one
this
thing.
is kind of
I dig that. I like that a lot.
Happening at the same time.
But to me, that suit was so. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is, I probably think, my favorite suit. I'm going to need to see this one more. But this was very much like a mix of Silver Age, like that bright, vibrant blue, the stitching, and it being handmade, homemade. Like, now he's Spider-Man. He's in an apartment paying monthly cash.
Right.
No one knows who he is.
Right.
He's trapped getting his GED. Yeah. He's an adult. To me, the end of this movie is Spider-Man's origin. It took 5 movies. Now we have Spider-Man.
And you're going to get that set. So the first really the only post-credit scene, because Doctor Strange, I think, it's a trailer. So the post-credit scene is Tom Hardy sitting drunk out of his mind. What I loved about it is such a different type of villain, right? Because the thing is, he's sitting there and he's not there to go. He doesn't care. I'm not going after him. He's there to get hammered.
Yeah.
And even learn to I'll go find this Peter Parker kid. He's like, well, we just got here, and they're disappearing, and leaving the symbiote behind.
So it shows you, man.
What it means is that, we can have Venom in this.
We can have Venom. We can have the black suit. Venom is like the Phoenix Saga. It's a trilogy.
Yeah.
Stop making it one movie. The Phoenix Saga, you need to love Scott and Jean. You need to grow to the Phoenix. All that. With Spider-Man, you need a black suit movie. You need to know Eddie Brock. You need to have Venom be a third act, third movie. So what you can do now is you introduce, maybe you bring in Gwen Stacy, and Mary Jane doesn't know who Spider-Man is. He falls in love, and then MJ comes back into the picture later. Maybe you bring in him going to college, and he meets all new characters. Maybe he meets his Kurt Connors. Maybe he's teacher there, and you're like, oh, Kurt Connors. You bring in the black suit. You literally can do the Silver Age Spider-Man we've all been asking for in the MCU.
Got to come back.
Well, he's in Morbius, but he's not going to know Peter Parker.
Right, that's right.
He's going to know Spider-Man, but he's not going to know why he's so angry.
It's true, right?
It's genius. You
right.
have the origin of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This was an origin movie 5 movies in.
So, Winston, any other...
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah, because call on this particular thing, because then I think Doctor Strange, this trailer's going to drop probably this week.
I think Monday.
Yeah, it'll drop. So we can dive more into that, because I think that you do see the evil Doctor Strange from What If.
You get a beautiful black, Scarlet Witch, like the new costume and her conjuring and stuff. That's dope.
All that. So and it's more about the multiverse in general.
She's on Mount Wonderboard, which is dope.
It also looks like she's not necessarily the villain, which I kind of like.
I do too. I didn't want crazy woman is magic problems.
Yeah, I think because the same way that Doctor Strange unfortunately has messed with some things and all that, but by the fact that we got the Sorcerer Supreme, or Supreme, what were they calling him in What If?
Taco Supreme.
Crunchwrap Supreme.
Since Crunchwrap Supreme makes an appearance, we know that maybe Wanda's meddling has something to do with stuff and is bad, but she's not the antagonist here. It really is this evil Doctor Strange.
It's also, it's fun knowing the comics that where she is clipping those plants is Mount Wonderboard, which is like the source of magic on our planet. It's the closest threshold to like a magic source. So I'm really
set up a lot for the rules in this movie that can pertain to that movie, but either way, guys, that was it. That was our entire Spider-Man series.
I think this is the best Spider-Man movie, especially now talking about it. I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man No Way Home are both 5-star films, which means there are more, to me, Coy's ratings, 5-star Spider-Man movies than any other superhero. Because the only other 5-star superhero movies for me are Dark Knight and Winter Soldier.
I probably would I already know seeing it a second time I'm going to feel that way. I think talking it out has probably put it where it's gone over the edge for Spider-Verse.
It was 4.5 my first watch. It was really close.
It was 4.5 my first, but I haven't seen it a second time.
I like the shortness, the briefness of Spider-Verse that still got the job done.
Sure.
But you let the same reason you want to see Star Wars no longer as films, or at least give it some time and let TV shows happen, you have an opportunity to breathe. Mm-hmm. And I think it is possible when Across the Spider-Verse comes out that maybe I flip-flop back if we do a good of enough job. But for the time being, since we really got to breathe and stuff, I think this is my favorite Spider-Man.
So I want to hold on the ranking still.
Yeah, I held till I saw the second time. I didn't adjust my list till the second view.
Okay, I wish I had brought a piece of paper and written this down. I was very curious because we never did.
That's why I want to hold on them.
You're still going to hold?
I think we hold because so
when do we do it?
I don't know.
Because I did it. I got a homework assignment.
All right, you know what? All right, go ahead. You do it. You do yours, Corey, first, and then I'll put together mine. I didn't really put it together, but I'll put this is so for people who were wondering. We when we did the rewatch series, we said it's very similar to when we did the Star Wars one. We said we're going to put together our favorite ones. So, all right, let's do it. We'll put it, and let's go from worst to first.
Okay. You guys are
worst.
Start at worst.
Worst to first. Yes.
Spider-Man 3.
So you're going to go first?
No, you go for it.
Oh, no. I thought you were just saying one at a time.
This is why I didn't want to do this on the air.
Oh, okay.
We'll do it later. We'll do it later.
No,
That's fine.
Okay, I got mine. My worst is Spider-Man 3. My second worst is Amazing Spider-Man 2. My third worst is Spider-Man Far From Home. Then we have Spider-Man 1, 2002.
Okay.
Then we have The Amazing Spider-Man. Then Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay. Can I just look at this? The visuals will
Yeah, they got you. The posters help.
All right, well, let's go ahead with it. Okay, so Spider-Man 3 is my worst, followed by Spider-Man 1, then Spider-Man Far From Home, then No, I'm wrong, sorry, The Amazing Spider-Man, then Spider-Man Far From Home, then Amazing Spider-Man 2.
There must be more clues in these office at Feast.
Homecoming, then Spider-Man 2, then Into the Spider-Verse, and then No Way Home.
So we'll do, how many are there total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Should be 9.
7, 8, so I'm missing one. So
3 Raimi. 2 Garfield. 3.
I see where I missed it. All right. Okay, so here's my list right now. So there's 11 of them. So number 11 for me is
9 of them.
9 of them?
9 of them? Did I say 11?
Yes, you
Sorry,
did.
9.
Very clear.
9. Sorry. 9 out of 9. So number 9. Number 9 is Spidey 3. Number 8 is Amazing Spider-Man 2. 7 is Amazing Spider-Man. 6 is Spider-Man. 5 is Spider-Man 2. 4 is Far From Home. 3 is Homecoming. 2 is Spider-Verse. And then 1 is
There we go.
Yeah. So that's it.
We did it, guys.
All right, it'll probably evolve again.
Yeah, I guarantee next year.
Did I tell you something hilarious here, Winston? That just before we sign off, on my review, my non-spoiler review, I saw it twice, and one guy goes, "You're lying. You didn't see this movie." And I go, "What?" He's like, "You didn't see it. You're not telling the truth." And I'm like, "Is that a clone of me?" He's like, "You didn't see it." I'm like, "Okay." And then another guy was like, because I like Tyrone Magnus very well, very much. I know him, and I've been buddies with him for a bit. But this fan is like, "Your wife, Tyrone Magnus, didn't see it. How come you saw it? You didn't see it. You didn't see
Talking
it."
about No Way Home.
I didn't see it.
I love that someone's like, if this one human being hasn't seen it, you can't have. You control the internet.
Hilarious. It's hilarious. So you didn't see it? I'm like, okay.
I literally, when I did my TikTok spoiler-free review, I posted a picture of me at the red carpet. I literally wrote receipts because I didn't want that exact thing. So I literally spent 1 second doing like TikTok review.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, listen, that was the review, guys. We did it. It was a long one, but it was worth it. It is the review of Spider-Man No Way Home. Now remember,
number 1 for all 3 of us, worth noting.
It was. I mean, again,
that's a big thing.
Let's see. But all right, so here's the thing. So besides that, this is when we release this is Monday. Well, tomorrow we got to review The Matrix coming. So there's so much more, and then we're going to do. Coy and I will be doing an episode of Big Thing, spoiler heavy, very similar to this for Matrix next Monday. I'll have a spoiler review of Matrix coming up right after it drops on Wednesday, I believe. So there's so much coming up here, and then I didn't tell Coy this. I have the full season of Cobra Kai that I'm watching.
Yeah.
So I'll be reviewing that for you. Boba Fett coming up as well. So there's so much in this channel. Please, if you didn't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button.
I'll be going to the Matrix Fair this weekend, so I'll make sure to name drop a lot for you. Make sure that me and Keanu have a chat, have some talks, talk about some Kevin Feige experience.
You need to do that. So anyway, guys, please. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Please comment. The whole thing. Thank you guys again. Thank you to Winston and Coy for this whole entire series that we did. We got a lot more coming up. We appreciate you. And please comment and subscribe, podcast, all that stuff. We love you guys. Appreciate it. See you in the first episode.
It's probably going to happen. It's Spider-Man. We watched them all. Spider-Man's his favorite news.
No, it's really not.
This is Sable Control. What's the situation in Battery Park? Traffic control point Charlie taking fire from demons. B5. Armored vehicle. Location is Battery Park. Over.
Demons robbing an armored car. These guys are looking for long-term financing.
You look confused.
You're kind of scaring me. You looking good, Spidey? Can you, like, lift something heavy?
How your buddies the demons doing, Spider-Man? You all seem like birds of a feather to me.
Publishers are dying for an inside scoop on the Fisk takedown. Let me rep you, Spider-Man. Book will write itself.
Can't forget to stop by Feast. Need to get a look at Lee's office.
Hey, sounds corny, but you're my hero. Seriously.
Wow. This is why I'm glad I moved to later, Spider-Man. Call me when you're ready to get serious about Omaha. My kid loves you.
Should you just be standing here like that? How's it going? Hello?
Hey, you freaking masked menace. My brother worked for Fisk. Freaking unemployed now. Thanks a lot.
You don't mind, right?
Should I call the police?
All units. Mass terrorists are believed to be transporting a bomb. Available officers, move on the financial district.
Over here.
Don't mind me.
Lights back. Move left.
My mom freaked out this call, but I...
1030 be advised. Attempted robbery of an armored vehicle. Officers needed near Battery Park. Please copy.
I've been a fan for like years.
a picture.
Yo, Spider-Man, we don't need you in this city. We got enough problems as it is.
Spider-Man. Okay, no, freak out.
Hello?
Looking good, Spidey. Any direction? Say cheese. What are you looking at?
Pretend I'm a bad guy. This is why I'm glad I moved to New York. Can't get this in Omaha. Spider-Man, over here. Spider-Man, listen, you insured after that crane's done. I thought this guy needs a policy. Let me help.
Ground teams, this is Control. What's the situation in the financial district? Outpost X-Ray under attack. It's the demons.
Can I have your autograph? Demons are everywhere. New York isn't safe anymore.
Spider-Man, shoot away.
Spidey, what's the
This is
plan?
Stable Control. What's the situation in Battery Park? Traffic control point Charlie taking fire from demons.
Got it. I got a picture.
It really is you. Move it, Spider Jerk! Don't got time for you!
Ground teams, this is Control. What's the situation in the financial district?
Control, rooftop outpost under fire from demons.
I like the other suit better. I got him.
Hey, Spidey, will you follow me on social media?
You be swinging or something?
Any trouble?
Hey, you ever think about suing Jameson for libel? I bet you got a case.
like, lift something heavy?
You need directions?
No. Spider-Man.
This is Stable Control. What's the situation in Battery Park?
Checkpoint under attack by demons.